Abraham Lincoln is back on the big screen, and there aren't any vampires in this one. How about that?
Thank God.
As always, for the website realscreenreviews.com and the YouTube channel We Live Film, I am movie critic Nick Iacobucci, and I'm happily joined by my guest critic, the lovely Debbie D'Angelo. Thank you for being here.
Sure.
And our next film is, the review for our film is Lincoln. It opened in December of 2012, depending on limited release, wide release, where you live. And it stars Daniel Day-Lewis, Tommy Lee Jones, David Strathairn, Sally Field, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, James Spader, John Hawkes, many other people. It's a very star-studded cast. It comes to us from legendary filmmaker Steven Spielberg, the Academy Award-winning filmmaker of Saving Private Ryan and Schindler's List. And without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my guest critic to tell us a little bit about the premise for the movie Lincoln. Debbie?
Try to follow me here, because this is going to be a very complex description. The movie Lincoln is about Abraham Lincoln.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Is that where they got that?
I think so. Brilliant. Pretty much during the second term of his presidency. So it encompasses the Civil War and emancipation. And they do give you a little bird's eye view of his personal life, too. So
Yes,
I thought it was a
absolutely.
good blending of both.
But I think it was a lot about the forging of the 13th Amendment, as well as...
Isn't that emancipation?
I think so.
Yeah.
As well as Lincoln personally. And, well, right off the bat, did you or did you not like the movie?
Absolutely loved it.
Really?
In fact, I think, for me, this was the best movie of the year.
Really? Mm-hmm. Were you that enthralled by the movie?
I was. I'll tell you what. I saw Argo, loved it.
Yeah, I
saw
liked
Skyfall,
Argo.
loved it.
I liked Skyfall,
but
too.
of the three, preferred Lincoln.
Really?
My husband said the same thing. Is
See, you need to see The Life of Pi. Actually, I saw that
that the
recently.
one with the lion or tiger?
The Bengal tiger on the...
Okay, already a tiger out in the middle of the ocean.
This movie is... Lincoln is great. It's a great movie. It's so well made. It's so well acted. His performance is mesmerizing because he's even got that high pitch to his voice that I know that Lincoln was a high tenor when he spoke. He wasn't a baritone. And they've gotten that wrong in many other movies. Day-Lewis's performance is just like above and beyond. But for me, the movie was just long in spots, and it was like repetitive.
Really?
Yeah, I did like it, but it just seemed like it was just going in the same place over and over again. I mean, it's so well made that I would never not recommend the film. But speaking from like a sheer enjoyment and entertainment standpoint, I really thought that the movie lacked in
Oh, I didn't
a
at
spot
all.
here and
I
there.
totally
really did.
disagree with that.
Yeah.
Totally disagree. In fact...
And I'm not bashing the movie.
No,
Okay.
in fact, I'm bringing up Skyfall, which I loved.
Right.
Towards the end of that movie, there was a particular scene. I said to my husband, oh my God, if this happens, that's going to add another 15 or 20 minutes to the film. You know, when are we going to wrap this up? I got to go to the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? So it was a good movie, but I thought they could edit that one down. I didn't feel that way at all about Lincoln. And the transformation is just awesome. I mean, you just look at him, you forget who it is. You just think it's him. Even down to his characteristics, the storytelling, the twinkle in his eye, the sense of humor.
Wasn't he even known as the thinker, if I'm not mistaken? Abraham Lincoln was known as and there was many times throughout this movie that everybody in the room is talking, and he's just sitting there, and you can just tell that he's like evaluating everything that's going on, and then at the end, he always speaks. And I always thought that was really, I think they really captured the nuances of the man. And I
always
really
wanted to hear what he had to say.
Yeah.
And you knew it was most of the time it was going to be tinged with a little humor. Sometimes self-deprecating.
Right.
You know, that little twinkle in his eye. And then when people are like, oh, God, he's telling another story.
Right. And that was actually got to be very humorous, I thought.
Yeah.
And I liked his stories. I thought he reminded me of a college professor that I had that in criminal justice that, like, when this guy started to tell a story, everybody put their pencils down because you knew that the next 5 or 10 minutes is, you know, going to be gone. But the guy always had great stories with great punchlines, and that's what his character reminded me of. It's like, I wouldn't mind listening to this guy talk. I thought he really had a point.
Didn't you really feel like you could it was almost palpable, the weight that he was carrying with all the decisions of the Civil War and freeing the slaves and just all the political machinations that went on back then too.
Absolutely. And something else that got me, and it's kind of like very relevant to what you're talking about. Like, he's this president carrying this ungodly burden on his shoulders. But how does the movie open, and what happens throughout most of the movie is he's talking to the soldiers, he's talking to common people. People just walk into the White House. I mean, I thought that was actually kind of humorous that, you know, people would just run up to the White House and just open the door and walk in.
Wasn't as much security.
Where's the president? It's like, it was really kind of funny, but he seemed like, and I guess you could, it was probably proven in documentation, but he was a very human person. Like, he wanted to hear what was wrong in people's lives, what could he do to improve them, and, like, on a one-on-one level, and not to, you know, like today it's, you know, Barack Obama to the masses, or whoever the main president is to the masses, you know, but nobody ever meets the guy, nobody ever talks to the man or speaks, and you really got that sense of this
They were
gentleman
loyal
really
to him.
Yes, absolutely.
Throughout the movie, you know. Now, of course, we weren't there, so we don't know what really happened. But I thought, yeah, that's a really good point. The humanity of that role, bringing in Sally Fields and her role as his wife, and all the pain that she went through and emotional struggle. They both did, you know, because they lost a child. But speaking of children, I did not really understand Tad, the little one.
Right.
What was going through his head? Like, what was that kid doing all the time?
I have no idea.
He was like totally transfixed by these pieces of paper
he was
reenacting the war. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
He did kind of bizarre things. But Abraham Lincoln was really patient with him, but I struggled to understand what that kid was doing and where he was coming from.
Well, one of the performances that I thought that stood out was Tommy Lee Jones. I thought was great.
I loved him.
It was almost like an extension of the Sam Gerard character from The Fugitive without the brawn.
Yeah.
Like all the harshness in the voice and the point that he was trying to make without the physicality of the role, but that was all still there. I thought he was actually, outside of Daniel Day-Lewis, he was the most entertaining person to watch.
I liked
in
him.
The film.
And James Spader, I loved him.
Yeah, James Spader and John Hawkes play these two, I don't know, shady
kind
lawyers.
Of buffoony.
Yeah, they were trying to like gather votes and help the president, and they were
comical.
They were
comical.
Without them, the movie would have really suffered, because I think the movie was extremely serious to begin with. And look at the topic; it has to be.
There were some good one-liners.
But there were some good one-liners, and I think that John Hawkes and James Spader really helped the story along because they added a new dimension of laughter and humor.
And Tommy Lee Jones, he had like a dry sense of humor.
Yes,
he had some good one-liners too. I really enjoyed everything about the movie.
Well, how many?
I give it 4 hearts.
4 hearts out of 4 hearts. That's Debbie's real screen review. Nick's real screen review is going to be just under that. And like I said, I just thought that it lagged every now and again. Maybe there was a moment here at 2.5 hours. It felt 2.5 hours. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars.
That's good.
Out of 4.
Yeah.
I'd say it's one of the year's best films. It was just a great movie experience, and
kind of graphic, kind of gory. I will give you that little alert.
And coming from the director of Saving Private Ryan, I would say that he actually toned it down, and it still came off gory. Like, they didn't explore any of the battle scenes. He kind of came in when they were over, and there was maybe some shocking after effects, but it wasn't like Saving Private Ryan, that opening 20 minutes where it's just
not on the
a gallery of violence.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that at all. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was the performance of Daniel Day-Lewis alone, and this is of no surprise because to anybody that watches the man as an actor, he's just amazing. I've never seen. I think honestly, people look back and they'll look back and they'll say there was Robert De Niro, there was Marlon Brando, and then there was Marlon Brando, then Robert De Niro, then Daniel Day-Lewis.
He was captivating.
Just a method actor, just a captivating persona, captivating performance. It's just great. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your thoughts and opinions on Lincoln. I say that with 4 hearts out of 4 hearts and 3.5 stars out of 4, I'd say this is a must-see for anybody that's looking for a history lesson, being entertained, just looking for a good movie to see, learning something in general. Yeah. It was great. So, well, thank you so much for being here, people. We hope that you'll return soon enough. And until then, remember, we're not always right, but only when it comes to the movies. And thank you very much for your attention.